And what a week. What a week.
Yeah, especially there's a lot of news and a lot of things going on considering it's the off season.
I'm really hyped up to talk about Cade Cunningham, and I know we'll talk about him a lot during this podcast, but got some former Pistons, man. Just telling some funny ass stories.
This is what I'm loving this about the new NBA players, man. The openness and just them willing to talk about almost anything. Because I feel like with older players, when you listen back to some of those interviews, you don't get that. You don't get the behind the scenes as much. They might tell like a story and kind of like, titillate you a little bit with something. But Bruce Brown, I thought this was pretty cool. That entire interview, I think it was their name is Title Podcast or Title Rundown, something like that. But that interview with Bruce Brown was pretty awesome. But he talks about why he was traded. And it's kind of a funny story, to be honest with you. You feel bad, though, for the guy. During the COVID offseason, teams would spend 2 weeks in the bubble and 2 weeks off going home to family. Bruce's first time meeting Troy, he told him he was going home for 2 weeks for his birthday. Then when he returned to Detroit or to the Pistons in the bubble, they decided to trade him. I mean, dude, it's funny, but also like, I feel like that's such a terrible reason to trade somebody. Like, I don't get it. But what were your thoughts on that interview, man?
I thought more Pistons fans would be upset with that, but I saw more of the fan base, a majority of the fan base. I don't want to say all, because I feel like there's still a lot of Bruce Brown fans out there. They were actually laughing like, "Oh, you want 2 weeks off your job?" Like they just kind of ignored the COVID thing. But the fact that he asked Troy, "Hey, give me 2 weeks off for my birthday so I can go back home to Boston, Massachusetts, and then I'll work out, whatever." The fact that Troy did that, it's kind of savage, because he said we're looking to go in a different direction, and the player that he traded for to go in a different direction didn't even make the team, and he's like a EuroLeague star. I just kind of think that to me, that was the funniest part of that whole story. Like,
yes.
Troy's like, "Fuck your birthday." Like, that's basically what he said when he came back. Like, "Hey, you're not going to be here. You're not going to work hard. Why should I give you time off?"
I thought oh my God, like, it's just Bruce Brown. You should have known better. Troy Weaver, like you're saying, is a savage. He's all about his business. He doesn't want you messing around. He doesn't care about your birthday. He doesn't care about your family. He wants you working. He wants you with the team. And he's serious about it. Do you have like a little bit more respect for Troy Weaver after hearing this story, or is it just kind of about the same for you?
It makes sense now why he did trade him, because we never got context to it.
Yeah.
We had pitchforks out, like, why are you going to trade one of our better defenders for a bag of peanuts? But it kind of makes sense why the team wanted to go into a different direction. I could understand Troy's standpoint from it, but my only thing is, like, if you're not going to communicate with players to tell them, like, "Hey, I don't want you going to Boston for 2 weeks," I think I would have a little bit more respect. But I'm sure being an NBA general manager is a really tough job, and it's really hard to be so transparent with these players.
But you don't think anybody in the organization told Bruce Brown, like, "Hey, probably not the best decision right now to leave for 2 weeks"? I have a feeling that someone said something to him. And there's still a little bit of this story that we're not getting all out from Bruce Brown. I also did find it funny that he said when he got back, like, everybody would just basically ghost him and just ignored him for the rest of his time while he was in Detroit. He's like, I was just kind of shocked, people you'd be friends with, dapping it up, whatever. And suddenly they're just like, they turn their backs towards you. I found that part to be pretty fun, a little cruel, but a little funny too at the same time. But Bruce Brown, man, I'm glad we got a little bit more context behind the trade too, to be honest. And I really did like that he said that Troy Weaver called him personally and said, "Hey, you're traded." So we know that Troy Weaver is one of those GMs. Because I remember some people on Twitter saying no GM calls you, but Troy Weaver, it is confirmed, he does call people and lets them know, "Hey, you're no longer a Piston."
It's kind of funny. because he did have another segment on that podcast. I know we're talking about him getting traded, but he talked about the playoff atmosphere here, and I thought it was funny as hell because they asked him, like, Detroit, what's it like? What's it like at LCA? He said, Game 3, man, it was lit. He's like, Game 4, nobody showed up. They knew it was over. I thought that was so funny.
But I don't remember. I remember Game 3 being absolutely crazy. But I thought Game 4 still had a pretty decent turnout, though. Or maybe I'm misremembering it.
I don't even remember that playoff series because I knew we were going to win. I knew Blake had like a torn. I think he had a torn meniscus, but we didn't really know like the severity of the injury. We just knew he had like tape wrapped up to his like freaking middle thigh. He had like a stone cold knee brace. But that playoff series I was happy we made it, but at the same time, like I did not want Milwaukee. I wanted Toronto, even though Toronto won the championship that year. I felt like we matched up better with Toronto than any other team in the playoffs.
I really thought Detroit would steal one game from that series. I thought they'd steal at least one, but they didn't. Another former Piston, Chris Middleton, I believe he like absolutely killed Detroit in that series too. But it was all put on Giannis' shoulder. Let's talk about Summer League though. We got another Summer League topic, and honestly, this one's a little unfair. This is going to hurt a few people. Asor Thompson didn't make the 2023 All Summer League first or second team. Boo-hoo to us as fans. Did not realize they gave rings for the championship. That's kind of crazy in itself, but shout out to Monty Bates winning one of those. First team was Keontae George, Sam Merrill, Orlando Robinson, Hunter Tyson, and Cam Whitmore. Now, let's just talk about the first team. Could you see Asor Thompson replacing any of those five guys, or did all five of those guys have a better summer league than Asor Thompson?
If you're talking about points per game production, yes.
Yeah.
Cam Whitmore, he was the MVP of Summer League.
Yeah, he looked great.
Had a great showing out. Keontae George, who both of us were very high on going into the draft, absolutely balled out for Utah. Same with Orlando Robinson. I think he had a couple 30-point games as well. So the first team I wasn't really expecting. I think my biggest gripe with this whole list is he didn't even make second team.
Yeah, I'm looking at first team right now. Sam Merrill had a good game. Hunter Tyson, I saw a bunch of highlights of him. He looked great. But second team, you have Imani Bates, Max Christie, Javion Freeman Liberty, Xavier Moon, Jabari Smith Jr., and then Jalen Wilson. Jabari Smith Jr., he played, 2 games, and he had a 38-point game, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, he led Summer League in scoring. So
okay.
I feel like you kind of have to put him on there because he led the Summer League in points per game because he just went absolutely nuts in the first 2 games.
Yeah, and then Imani Bates, he might be the one guy because I saw Max Christie. Max Christie looked great. He looked like he's going to get big minutes. Not big minutes, but he's going to be a part of the rotation in Los Angeles for the Lakers. I don't know much about Xavier Moon or Jalen Wilson or Javion Freeman Liberty because other than a couple of highlights, I didn't see much from them. So I just have to trust that the voters of Summer League got it right. But Imani Bates, I did see that. I think everybody that's made these summer teams, I don't want to discredit any of them. I think they're all there for a reason. But I thought if anybody could have been replaced, it was Imani Bates. Other than the shooting, and he had a couple good shooting games, but he had a couple of all right, they were just kind of average even for summer league games. A couple points where they were just in the teens. I felt like he was the guy Asor Thompson should have been on the second team over. What about you, though?
Yeah, I don't even if you wanted to put a player on Cleveland for the second team, it's not Imani Bates. It's Isaiah Mobley. When I was watching, because I watched a lot of summer leagues, and I did want to keep an eye on Imani Bates.
Yeah.
Just to see how he did. And Isaiah Mobley, for me, just jumped off the screen. I felt like he had a really great summer league, and he's a big reason why they won this summer league championship. I feel like Asor, he had a great summer league. The Pistons didn't make the playoffs, but they were still 4-1. They were one of the teams that had 4 wins. That was only my gripe. There was even a stat that when players were guarded by Asor Thompson, they only shot 21% from the field. He was just locking people down. I know it's, all summer league team and we shouldn't be getting upset over it, but to me, I felt like he was one of the better players in summer league. And I felt like at least a second team consideration for me personally would have been good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep over this at all, but the way most of, and not even just Detroit Pistons fans, I felt like most of the basketball or NBA Twitter community, the way they were talking about Asor, everybody was impressed by what he could do. Defensively, his playmaking, his athleticism was just, it was eye-popping. It just came out, it was crazy. Some of the moves, some of the dunks he had. I mean, that putback, the lob he caught from Marcus Sasser, two highlights that are probably always going to be showed for the rest of his career. They were huge plays. And the defense really stood out. I already mentioned that. So I felt like just the way all of NBA Twitter was talking about him, he made noise. And it wasn't like, in years past of Summer League where, it was critical. It was just everybody was really impressed. And I thought that was like, okay, cool. He's getting his respect. I feel like he was the first Piston. And maybe that's more important. It felt like he was the first Piston that got respect during Summer League and not criticism.
Well, not only that, he stuffed the stat sheet.
He did.
Like, between his steals and his blocks, I mean, he was up there. Obviously, the scoring, wasn't there. He wasn't, dropping 30 points a game, but the defense and just the stat sheet, if you're a box score watcher and you're looking at his games and he's getting, 10-plus rebounds, I mean, that's impressive to me. But, I'm not really going to to your point, I'm not going to lose sleep over Asor not making all summer league first team or second team. I just thought, me personally, taking my Detroit Pistons, fan hat off, I felt like he was one of the better players in summer league, in my opinion, at least.
So do you think this is foreshadowing anything for the season? Do you think the voters get it right when it really matters?
I mean, are you campaigning for him right now, July 23rd, Rookie of the Year? Honestly, I'm like, all right, man. I'm going to put that out there.
I just want to see him on an all-rookie team. That's it. That's all. I hope he makes enough noise or he makes an all-rookie team, and I hope this is no indication of what is to come.
I mean, I told you last year or this past season, you're like, oh, Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey are going to make first team. I was like, dude, watch him make second team. And it happened.
I thought Ivey would make first team for sure. Duren, Walker Kessler ended up just coming on so strong towards the second half of the season, which is crazy because we all know, if you're a rookie and you have a great second half, well, at least if you're a Detroit rookie, you can have a great second half. It doesn't mean shit. But I guess if you're a player in Utah, it means the absolute world. But hey, we got guys on the all-second team. That's cool. The Pistons win total is at 27.5 for the year. My question to you, Anthony, and everybody listening is, are you taking the over or the under on that win total?
This win total is so dependent on health. It's not even funny.
It is.
I've in recent years, I've always taken the over, and the Pistons usually don't even hit it. Vegas is telling you that the Pistons are around 28 wins. They were at 17 last year, so they're expecting at least a 10-game improvement with Asar, with Sasser, Monte Morris, Joe Harris. I'm probably going to go with the over. I think, adding Monte Morris is really going to help. Having a veteran point guard to back up Cade or Jaden Ivey, whichever one plays point guard, I don't know. We're just assuming it's going to be Cade. Who knows? I think that's going to be really crucial in this team. And you also have Joe Harris, whether or not he's even going to play. We're going to get into, that later on in the show with, the bench unit. But I'm thinking 33 to 35. That's where I'm at.
Man, I'm taking the over. Let me just make that very clear. It's the most American thing you can do is you never root for the under. You always root for the over when you're gambling. Last year, I think it was 25.5. And they were nowhere near that. I feel like the biggest difference this year is everybody's starting out the season healthy. There's no question marks about health for anybody. But also, they have about 10 guys this year on the roster that could get minutes on other NBA teams, which was something last season you could not say. They were playing because of injuries and everything, but there were, Bojan was sitting, Burks was sitting, Isaiah Stewart was out. Livers only played 51 games. And then you were relying on guys like Jared Roden or R.J. Hampton. Buddy Boeheim, I think, played about 12 games. Those guys aren't really cracking the rotation of very many NBA teams out there. So I just think from top to bottom, this roster is overall better. But to your point, Anthony, you're absolutely right. It is 100% dependent on health. If Cade goes down, it's going to be another long season. But if he stays healthy, I can expect, I would say probably about 32 wins is probably the peak of this team. And I would be shocked if they go over that.
Yeah, I'm thinking 35, like 33 to 35 is like my sweet spot with this team, because I don't think they're going to come off the gate just, winning 10 straight.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take some time to get used to Monty Williams' offense, because a Dwayne Casey offense and a Monty Williams offense is completely different. You heard Jarrett Jack screaming 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. And these guys, Marcus Sasser, obviously, he's a rookie. He hasn't learned the 0.5 offense yet. But if you do watch some Phoenix Suns games, you go, pull up some highlights of the ball movement that they have. I think that's going to take a little bit of a learning curve for this team. But I think once they, learn the system, they start sharing the ball, playing team defense, I think 35 wins isn't unreasonable. I don't think it's a hot take either. I think, Cade coming into year 3, you got Ivy, Duran, all these guys are putting in an insane amount of work this year that I've seen personally on social media. Who knows what they're doing behind closed doors, but I think 35 wins to me isn't unreasonable.
Okay, so last year the Pistons had a win streak of 2 games.
Yeah.
How many games do you think the Pistons would win in a row if you had to predict? We're not even looking at the schedule because the schedule's not out yet. But since we're talking about win totals, how many wins do you think the Pistons could possibly win in a row this upcoming season based on the roster right now?
Like a win streak? I could see 5.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I really could, because I don't want to say Dwayne Casey got a phone call from Troy Weaver saying, don't try, tank.
Yeah. You're
not going to bring in Monty Williams to coach your basketball team to say, hey, we really like this kid in the top 5, tank. You're paying this guy $13 million a year. You're going all in. You're trying to win. You're not trying, the games where we're really competitive and, for 2 quarters and then we're sitting the starters, that's not going to happen. I think you're actually going to see a basketball team it's going to try. It reminds me a lot of when Stan Van Gundy came in with the Detroit Pistons, and you actually saw effort. You saw a team that was trying to win, and I think that's what you're going to see with Monty Williams too. I don't want to compare the two because I think Monty Williams is a better coach. I'm just comparing the effort level and actually trying to win basketball games, trying to play meaningful basketball for a full 48 minutes.
Interesting. I like it. I really do. I mean, yeah, I think with Monty, we've talked about this before, with Monty Williams at the helm, they're not going to be tanking this year. They're going to try to win as many games as they possibly can. This roster, it's not the best roster. I'm going to make that very clear. But it's a better roster than the Pistons have put out the last 3-4 years, it seems like. So let's get our hopes up. Let's hope for 32 to 35 wins. Let's be excited about this season right now. And everybody watching this, take the over. Please take the over. Let's do this. Let's hammer it home. Well, let's move on to some news right now. And we have a lot of Cade talk coming up. Cade is finally practicing in 5 versus 5 runs. This past week, we saw Cade play pickup down in Florida with other NBA players, Andre Drummond, Marvin Bagley, Jonathan Kuminga, and Trey Murphy, to name a few. So let's start with that. Cade Cunningham, how did he look to you in the summer?
He looked great. I didn't know I needed to see that video so much. When we were doing the podcast during the season, I think both of us should have had a mental wellness check because it was depressing. 17 wins. Like you had mentioned earlier, had guys like Buddy Boeheim, Jared Roden, Stanley Amude, RJ Hampton. It was rough.
It was.
I love the fact that Cade was playing in the Miami Pro League, held by Stanley Remy, who is not only Andre Drummond's trainer, but he's also Marvin Bagley's trainer as well. So shout out to those guys down there, and Jeff A. Island too for letting me post that video. Shout out to him. But dude, I loved it. The one thing that I don't want to say sad about, but watching Andre Drummond screen for Cade, I was like, man, imagine if Drummond had a Cade Cunningham.
That was pretty cool. My biggest takeaway, I actually have a few takeaways from this open run because Cade looked so smooth, man. He looked like he was in complete control of the game, man. Like, that was the one thing I was impressed with. Like, he could get to any spot he wanted on the floor. You know, just like you had mentioned, the pick and roll with Andre Drummond, it looked great. That pass was just incredible. Like, I mean, it was just a basic pass, but it was so on point. And you're just salivating a little bit because you're like, that is what we're going to expect all year. It's going to be incredible. He looked confident in his body. There was no hesitation. Like, it didn't seem like when he was attacking the rim or pulling up or anything like that, it didn't seem like there was any hesitation from him. It seemed like the shin was ready to go. He was ready to get back at it. And it honestly looked like a guy that didn't have surgery. You could tell his rehab went really, really well. And then probably the biggest takeaway from me from just watching those clips, just how the game looked slowed down for him. It wasn't even an NBA game, but there were NBA players out there. But it looked like he was moving faster than everybody else out there, in my opinion. That is me. Like, it almost was like watching a Jason Kidd and Steve Nash almost, where they are 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of everybody else out there on the floor. They know exactly what they're going to do with the ball before it happens. That's what it looked like with Cade Cunningham. Just complete control. Game looks slowed down. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think he's going to have a huge year for the Detroit Pistons this year. And the rest of the league is going to have to take notice, man. It's going to be awesome.
Was it me or did his shot look a little bit different?
That was the one thing. I went back to that a few times, and I didn't compare it to anything else, but it did look a little different now that you're bringing it up. Like, it kind of – I don't know if he got back to his college ways. That's kind of what it seemed like just a little bit. I don't know if that's where you're going with that, but he looked way more confident shooting the ball. Not that he lacked confidence shooting the ball in the NBA, but, again, there was just no hesitation from him.
Yeah, because I went back to last season when, I think it was the Hawks game where he went off for like 30. And I'm watching that, and I'm watching the Summer League run, or whatever you want to call it, Miami Pro League run. And it seems like he's getting, he's shooting at a higher arc, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
It seemed like the shot was more fluid. It didn't seem like it was unnatural. Maybe that's just something I saw. I don't know if you guys want to go watch the highlights. Maybe I'm just crazy, but it seems like his shot looked a little bit different to me.
I know what you're talking about. Like, I felt like there were some times in Cade's shot it kind of looked like a push shot just a little bit. I think he was – I just kind of saw it from the waist up. I don't know if he's getting his legs in his shot a little bit more. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's not. And again, that goes back to the rehab and the injury. Maybe the injury, that's what was affecting his shot so much his first, 82 games in the NBA between his first 2 years. So I'm going to say the injury has healed itself. Rehab went well. And he's getting strength back in his lower body to get that shot up more consistently and faster, but also with a little bit more arc, man. Maybe. I'll have to go back and watch it and confirm with you on that.
Yeah, it just looks different. I'm going to direct message Ashton and ask them if they've been working on it. Shout out to Ashton. But it just, like, when I was watching that highlight film, man, I just got so happy. I was just like, man, we have a top 25 player in the NBA on our team. And he's coming back. And he's coming back with a vengeance. And I can't wait until preseason, dude. Like, I'm just salivating. And I know it's 2 months away, but I'm just so excited for this team.
Oh, same. I cannot wait for more videos, more clips to come out. And like you're saying, preseason, man. It's going to be a fun year. So Cade Cunningham, he was selected for Team USA Select, and he will practice against the senior national team. He also turned down an offer to play for Team USA, which I think it's crazy, man. I'm so surprised by this, and not because of his talent, just because he was out all of last season. You know, like he didn't really show us anything. So because he was hurt, I just think this is huge news. And I'm a little upset that he's not going to be playing with Team USA, but I'm also excited that he'll be practicing against Team USA. And if I'm any other fan base, I would wake up, because if Team USA and the rest of the basketball world is willing to offer a roster spot to a guy that did not play last year, it shows you how highly regarded he is in the basketball community, in the NBA world, where they're like, look, we got to have this guy. Even though he's coming off an injury, let's do what we can to get him in the program, because in a couple of years, we're going to need to rely on this guy, and he's going to help us win gold. That's what I think that says. But what are your thoughts on his selection to team select and denying the Team USA roster spot?
I love the fact that he denied the roster spot to go play for the World Cup, and he said he wanted to focus on this offseason and getting better. I love that. And if you look at the guards that they went with, it was Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson.
Yep.
And you look at the head coach that's going to be coaching them, can you guess who it is?
No, and I should know this.
Jamal Mosley from the Magic.
Ooh, that's cool.
Who the Magic have seen quite a bit of the Pistons. And, you know, the Magic and the Pistons, seems like they always get in a fight every time they play. But I think that they say a lot. And I love the fact that he's going to be paired up with Jalen Green in the backcourt in practice and scrimmage.
Yeah.
Because Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham have already won gold when I think it was the U18 or the U17. They won gold together. Him, Jalen Green, and Scotty Barnes won gold together. I think you can get a lot out of practicing against a Tyrese Halliburton or Jalen Brunson. I want to pull up the full roster for the USA team, because I think it's interesting that he did turn it down, because I think the experience you're going to get against international players is something that maybe you wouldn't get in even a practice with your own team. But let me look this up real quick. I'm just rambling right now. If you have anything to add, go for it.
No, I mean, I'm looking at the roster, trying to pull it up as well. And I'm with you. I would love to see him compete with that team. I would love to see him on the international stage, mainly just because I want him really just kind of to shut everybody else up. We see so much criticism and so much uncertainty when they mention Cade Cunningham. And that's the thing that bothers me just so much, because even though he was out last year, I got to see a lot of him his rookie year, where if you watched him his rookie year, you see a real special player. You see someone that, yeah, he probably doesn't win an MVP in the NBA. Like, I mean, not a lot of guys do. Let's just be honest. It's reserved for the best of the best. But Cade is going to, I think he'll make a couple of all-NBA teams at some point. I think he's that good. And I think he showed that his rookie year, just with his control of the game, his pace, you know, and then all we're looking for is just the efficiency shooting. That's all we're looking for in him. And just to turn the turnovers down a little bit, which will come with experience. But to see him on the international stage, to see him with the rest of Team USA, that would have been huge. And to what you said, I want to piggyback on that. I think it is great that he wants to focus on the upcoming season and just continue to get his body right and continue to get healthy. But it would have been real cool to see him play with Team USA.
So I have the roster pulled up, and I'll just name everyone on the roster real quick. So Jalen Brunson, as I said earlier, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Austin Reeves, Paulo Banchero, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cam Johnson, Walker Kessler, and Bobby Portis.
Hell of a team, to be honest with you. I wonder out of team select, I hope none of these guys get hurt. Let me just say that. But if anybody does get hurt, I wonder if Cade will be one of the first guys they call to replace them.
I mean, he turned down the invite. Like, if Jalen Brunson or Tyrese Halliburton gets hurt, they're probably going to call Cade or Jalen Green, because those are the only two guards on the select team. I mean, you also have Jalen Williams from OKC, Chet Holmgren from OKC, and Keegan Murray on that team. Like, I feel like the select team is going to give the world team some problems in practice, because they're all younger players, and I kind of feel like their starting five could give the world, or whatever you want to call it, the senior team, some problems.
That's what I was just about to say. If you had to like bet on who would win, Team USA or Team Select, just with their starting lineups, I might have to give it to Team Select, man. That's a pretty damn good team. You got two great athletes running in transition with Cade. You got a sniper in Keegan Murray, and then you got a rim protector in Chet Holmgren. You got the recipe for a really good starting five right there, man. Oh my god, dude, I would love to see. I hope they air that game if they do an air. If they air the game between Team Select and Team USA, that would be pretty sweet.
I feel like there'd be battles. I mean, like just Halliburton and Anthony Edwards against Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green.
Oh yeah,
like that's, and I know Rockets and Pistons fans, they want to see it too, because it's just the Jalen Green and the Cade Cunningham discourse among social media is hilarious.
Man, I love Team USA rosters, man. I don't know. I think even if a big guy went down, you might still call. I mean, I think Keegan Murray might get the nod there because I feel like his skill set would be so perfect for Team USA. But man, Cade, he just seems like a Swiss Army knife on Team USA too. I want to see it. I can't wait for when he finally accepts that invite. That's going to be incredible.
Yeah, so, someone had mentioned that it was Michael. So shout out to Michael. I like Cade, declined the team spot. He is going to be in the player pool long term, meaning possibly a Olympic spot.
That would be cool. Who was the last Piston that represented Detroit? I mean, the last Piston to represent us.
I think Drummond.
Okay, that's what I thought too. I mean, I guess Austin Day's still doing it overseas, but
shout to him. Well, what's kind of funny though is Isaiah Stewart and Sadiq Bey did the same thing. Like they practiced with the select team as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I remember Dwayne Casey talking about when they came back into training camp. He noticed how much better they got playing with elite level players. So I think that's a big benefit too when you get to go up against Anthony Edwards or Tyrese Halliburton for more than just an hour in an open gym. You're actually doing like 5-on-5 drills, having legitimate games. I think you can kind of pick apart what they like to do, and when you see them in the regular season, you already know what they like to do.
Oh man, the only thing I'd be concerned about is him talking with other players and pretend. I don't even want to get into that.
Oh, you mean like kind of like pull out LeBron saying my next chapter?
Yeah. Like they're just like, hey, come to Orlando, play with me, or why don't you come to Indiana? That's my biggest fear. That's my biggest fear.
Well, why can't it be the other way around?
I mean, it could be, but I don't want to test it. That's it. I don't. Just
okay.
Cade, just Cade, do your thing, Team USA, and you try to recruit. Don't let anybody recruit you. When we get into the next topic, that's probably why I don't want for them to talk to him too much. But we can move on to this next topic too. Speaking of it. And this is Austin Reeves was on All the Smoke podcast. We had to talk about this. And he talks about his NBA draft process and tiering teams that would best fit his skill set. And the Pistons were one of the teams willing to draft him at 42. But according to him, he told Detroit, hey, don't draft me. I'm going to give credit to Troy Weaver first for recognizing Austin Reeves' game and how he could potentially fit it next to Cade Cunningham. And honestly, dude, good for Austin Reeves, man. Seriously. He recognized that his game would thrive next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I think almost any player would. And he knew if he played well next to those two guys, he would be getting a bigger contract. He bet on himself, he gambled, and he won. He won big. He's making, I think, like $12 million a year now for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, however, I will say this, that I think he will be exposed when his role becomes a little bit larger and the presence of LeBron James and Anthony Davis is no longer taking the defensive eyes off of him. But what were your thoughts on this interview with Austin Reeves?
I actually did enjoy it. If you guys haven't watched it, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson do a really good job. Just their whole podcast as a whole, I do enjoy it. I like the fact that Austin Reeves just took a chance on himself. Yeah. And I'll applaud him for that because there were some teams that wanted to give him a two-way. There were some teams that, like the Pistons, wanted to draft him at, I believe, 41 or 42. over Isaiah Livers, and he said, "You know what? I'm good. I don't want to go to Detroit." Basically, he didn't say that in the interview, but he said I wanted to take a chance on myself. Milwaukee and LA were my 1 and 2 teams. I don't have a problem with him taking a chance on himself. The only thing I had a problem with during this podcast was he said I tiered teams in Detroit called. Matt Barnes made a little comment saying Detroit shouldn't be on anybody's tier. That was my only issue with that whole podcast is I don't understand why he had to make that comment, why it was necessary. It's just like a little pot shot. I don't know if he's still a little bit salty.
I don't know what he'd be salty about. I don't know. But let's just talk about Austin Reeves just for one more second. So do you think, how would Detroit know they didn't want him to draft him? So you're saying he didn't have that conversation with them in the interview process? I think that's where it would have to take place, though, right? Just say, hey, look, don't draft me. I don't want to be here. As soon as my contract is up or whatever, I'm out. It could have been something like that. I mean, I don't know. I do doubt it a little bit just because you're a player with the opportunity to have the opportunity to hear your name called. That's kind of a big deal. It's something that everybody that's ever picked up a basketball dreams about, and you're telling a team not to. And my thing is, if you're such a good basketball player, it shouldn't matter what environment you go to. You should be able to thrive in almost on any team. So I don't know where that conversation had, but I would give him more respect if he just came out and said, yeah, we were on the phone and there was 30 seconds left on the clock. And they're like, hey, we're going to draft you. I said, no, don't. And then he hung up. I would have a lot more respect. But again, I'm glad he gambled on himself and got what he wanted out of it. But I don't know. Just it kind of rubs me the wrong way just a little bit with Austin Reeves. I'm rooting for him, but to tell a team that you don't want to be drafted by him blows my mind, dude. It really does.
I think it was more of a fit with him. He didn't feel like the Pistons would be a good fit. And who am I to say if he would be a good fit here or not? I'm thankful that we did draft Isaiah Livers in the second round, but to your question, I think it was more of his agent doing more of the negotiating than anything else.
Probably right.
Agents basically take care of anything that, whether it's draft, trades, whatever. His agent was probably telling teams like the Pistons he doesn't want to play in Detroit. His teams are in Milwaukee and Los Angeles, and he went undrafted, but he did get signed by the Lakers. So one of my buddies has told me that he was like a Walmart version of Alex Caruso, just his replacement. But he's a damn good player.
He is. He is.
I had no problems with him during the podcast. It was just Matt Barnes just kind of taking a pot shot for no reason, and we had posted that video, and someone called him Becky with the good hair and mentioned Derek Fisher, and he actually replied on my Instagram, and I was just like, oh God, look what you guys did.
I will say that my real issue was with Matt Barnes as well. And I feel like it's so unfair and so unnecessary to take shots at Detroit. You heard me whine about this on the last podcast. I did this with the other draft guy that was on there talking about Cade Cunningham and everything. But I'm going to say this, and I'm willing to bet that one day when Detroit starts winning, and this day will be soon, that we will all hear Matt Barnes say something along these lines, and he will say that he fucks with Detroit, and he always has. I am willing to bet that he will walk back what he said and say something like that, all of us forgot about it. And it'll be our job to remind him that we did not forget that shot that he took about Detroit. We will never let him forget.
We'll see. I mean, I made Gilbert Arenas put on a Pistons jersey and apologize.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
I clipped him when he said, with the Monty Williams stuff, saying why did Detroit give him $13 million? And then he comes on with the Tayshaun Prince jersey the next show. So social media is a powerful tool. And, when I see certain players talking crazy, I clip them. And I'll post it. I don't care.
So would you welcome Austin Reeves if in a few years he's like, hey, I want to sign with Detroit?
No.
Okay, that's what I was thinking too.
Not that he's not a good player. I don't really see a role for him here.
No, I'm saying like, again, Detroit's on a winning, they're winning more, and Austin Reeves like, hey, look, he's like 30. He's like, hey, look, I can help you guys out. I don't know if I would welcome him after this. I'd be like, oh, we're now on your tier. That's what I would want to say to him. We're now on your tier. Now that we're starting to win. But I don't know.
I don't think anyone gives a shit about Austin Reeves or Matt Barnes.
Hey, there are some people that I remember when Austin Reeves, earlier this offseason, when Austin Reeves, before he signed the extension or whatever, re-upped with the Los Angeles Lakers, there were Pistons fans asking, like, hey, what would it take to bring him to Detroit? And I feel like those Pistons fans now would be like, you know what, forget about that guy. I feel like there are some people out there, Anthony, that take this stuff as personally as I do. And those guys, dude, they're my fans.
Yeah, I see him on Twitter. I see you guys having conversations, and it's very entertaining.
I'm really in those. But let's move on to this rumor that was out there. This involves Jared Allen. So apparently the Detroit Pistons are in the market for another big man. Jake Weinbach tweeted out that the Detroit Pistons should express interest in Jared Allen. And Jared Allen. And I'm a little tempted. I'm a little tempted because Jared Allen, he is a good defensive player. Not good enough to win the Defensive Player of the Year award, but good enough to where, he might make a few All-NBA defensive teams, maybe a couple here and there in his career. He is a one-time All-Star. He's only I think he's 24 years old. And I believe in Jalen Duren so much that I'd be willing to pass, but the temptation is there. But if the Pistons were to do it, I don't know how Jalen Duren and Jared Allen fit together. I think it would all be dependent on Duren taking a step offensively and defensively. But what are your thoughts to this? I guess we can call it a rumor or just this tweet.
With Cleveland, I wouldn't understand why they would trade Jared Allen with this rumor. Unless I think the return on what they wanted was a sharpshooter and draft compensation. So if the Pistons wanted to get involved in this, we'll just play devil's advocate. You're probably saying goodbye to Bojan and giving them a draft pick. Is that worth it? No, it's not. You have a 19-year-old center that was third in the NBA in offensive rebounds. Let me repeat that. He was third in offensive rebounds behind Mitchell Robinson and Clint Capella. He almost averaged 3.5 offensive rebounds per game. We haven't even seen what Jalen Duren is capable of under Monty Williams. I wouldn't even entertain a deal trying to trade for another center because I think you have a franchise center in Jalen Duren. I think you have a center that you can build around. I don't really think you need to trade for a 25-year-old center that is established as a defensive player, and I do think he could win Defensive Player of the Year. I do. I think if Rudy Gobert can win Defensive Player of the Year, Jared Allen could win it. I really do. He's a good defensive player. He's the reason why Cleveland is such a good defensive team. He's a defensive anchor on that team. I just wanted to kind of tell you I believe he could win Defensive Player of the Year, but in terms of trading for him, I'm not going to give up a Bojan or anything like that, plus a draft pick for him. I just don't really see how that makes sense for Detroit, unless they're trying to win now.
But has Jalen Duren showed you enough defensively already where you're like, okay, he can be a legit anchor on defense for this team going forward? Has he shown you enough already defensively?
No, but he's still on a rookie deal.
Yeah,
Jared Allen's not.
Sure, that's fair.
Jared Allen's not. But I think the potential is there for him to be a defensive anchor. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he could easily block a shot and a half to 2 a game. The potential's there. The ceiling's there. I think he can get there. I think he could easily be a 20 and 10 guy all day.
I mean, yeah. I mean, offensively, I'm not worried about Duren. I'm not worried about him at all offensively. I think he'll be a double-double guy for sure. Maybe he might even take a leap where he's averaging almost 15 points per game this year. It wouldn't surprise me at all, especially with Cade coming back. But it's defensively. That's the stuff I'm more concerned with because we need a defensive anchor. We need a guy out there communicating. We need someone to protect the rim. You need defense. Despite what Kevin Durant said, you're right. It is all about scoring, and you need to score more than the other team, but you need to get stops as well. And you're going to need Duren to take a huge leap. And I just don't know if he has shown us enough defensively yet. I mean, he's shown flashes, but he's often compared to Bam Adebayo. And I don't think that level of defense is just there yet with Jalen. And I'm not saying shop him. I'm saying, if you had an opportunity to get a Jared Allen and have him on the team for like 2 years while you transition from a losing team to a winning team, it's not a bad idea. I think, again, I just don't know the fit with them together. But I do think that if Jalen Duren can be more disciplined defensively, he has the footwork and the athleticism and the lateral quickness to defend fours and make things uncomfortable for guys on the perimeter. I just don't know if there'd be enough spacing between those two guys offensively.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him at all. I know he could be a lockdown defender. I mean, if you watched him in college at all, you know that the tools are there. It's just unlocking that potential. I have no doubt in my mind that he will be a defensive anchor. I just don't. I think the biggest reason why Troy traded up for him is because he saw something in him. The reason why he did make that trade is he wanted a center that he could build around. I think he knew Isaiah Stewart wasn't a center. He knew that he was an undersized four or undersized center, and he wanted to put him at the four. I think that was a part of his plan long term. I think the fan base would absolutely hate trading a guy that had some promise, had some potential, and then you go see him just absolutely carve it up for another team. And you have the fans saying, another Middleton, another Dinwiddie situation. You don't want that again. Your questions about can he be, a defensive player? Can he lock down players? We don't know yet because we haven't seen a lot of him at the NBA level. But even if you go back and watch some of his first summer league games, he's very vocal out there. He's a leader. He tells teams, guard the pick and roll. Get the guy in the backdoor cut. He's a very vocal leader, and I think he's a guy that you should build around and you should keep. I wouldn't even entertain, like, if Cleveland said, we'll give you Jared Allen for Jalen Duren and Bojan, I'm like, no. Like, I'm hanging up the phone immediately.
Well, I don't want to trade Jalen Duren. I'm going to make that very clear. I don't want to get rid of him yet. I'm just saying, I just don't know if he will be on that level defensively. I hope he is. And, I've talked about it before. He has definitely showed some flashes. I've talked about his defense positively on this podcast, especially around when we were doing our summer league reactions. It's just, I think when you have the opportunity to – I don't even know if this rumor is true. I don't know if the Pistons are showing any interest in Jared Allen. But if you have a chance to get a 25-year-old – thank you for correcting me on that – a 25-year-old center that is a one-time All-Star. I don't know if he'll make any more of that, but that's not really important. But he has shown the defensive chops to be an all-defensive member. And I believe Cleveland, they were a top 10 defensive team last year, right? With him in the middle?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay. But
and if you have a chance to add that guy and, again, not giving up Duren, you might have to take a chance and just say, hey, let's see if they can make it work, even if it is just for like 2 or 3 years while this team grows. Because even if it is just 2 or 3 years, Jalen Duren will be 21 or 22. But I mean, he could definitely learn something from a Jared Allen because I don't know who he's learning defense from on this team anyway. Because it's certainly not Wiseman or Bagley. But if you could bring in a veteran like Jared Allen and show him the ropes for a couple seasons, I don't know. Might be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just the contract with me. I'm not willing to commit because he signed a 5-year, $100 million contract. And $20 million right now in the open market for a center like him is a steal.
Yeah.
You have to remember, Cade Cunningham's extension is going to be coming up very soon.
Yeah, his final year's contract, it ends in 25-26, and it will be 12.8% of the salary cap, if I'm reading that correctly, which doesn't seem too crazy. But anyways, let's talk about another big man that the Pistons aren't interested in, and that is Harry Giles, which is pretty crazy. He held a private workout. The Pistons, Cavaliers, Knicks, Bucks, Timberwolves were all in attendance. This comes from Hoops Hype. I'm just going to say I'm not surprised at all when it comes to the Pistons doing this, because he's a former first-round pick. He was a 5-star. I believe he was the best player in his class. Wasn't he like number 1 for a little bit?
Yeah, until he just had all those freak injuries in college, and then I think he got drafted 20th overall.
He did, and when he played for Duke, he only averaged 11 minutes per game and averaged like 4 points and 4 rebounds. Now, he did show a little bit in Sacramento. Like, he wasn't a bad player, showed some playmaking chops for sure, but he hasn't been in the NBA since the 21 season. So I think the chance of him making a roster and then yet alone a rotation for an NBA team right now, it's probably slim to none. But what are your thoughts on Harry Giles and the Detroit Pistons attending his workout?
I found it interesting that not only the Pistons but several other NBA teams attended his private workout in Vegas during the summer league. And I forgot to put this in the preparation sheet last week, but this happened last week, so this may be old news if you are hearing it now. But I found it interesting that the Pistons went to go see how he's looking.
Yeah.
Just because of all the front court depth we have.
Yep.
Like, we have a lot of front court depth. Like, you have Marvin Bagley, you have Jalen Duren, you have Isaiah Stewart, you have James Wiseman. Like, I don't really know why you would be interested in a Harry Giles when you have 4 of those guys that, I mean, outside of Wiseman, because we haven't really seen a whole lot, you kind of know what you're going to get from Bagley and Stewart and Duren. We haven't really seen a full season of, a James Wiseman experience. I just don't really know what he could bring to a team and where the minutes would come from.
But doesn't that, for me, it kind of sets alarms off where they're like, look, we're not happy with our big men right now. Like, we like Duren, we like Isaiah Stewart, but beyond that, we got these guys under contract, so we're going to play them, but we're still looking for more talent. And maybe we could, find a diamond in the rough with Harry Giles. I don't believe that, but maybe that's what their line of thinking is, that, like, after Duren and after Isaiah Stewart, it's really not looking that good for us. So maybe we should go to try to find somebody that can, be a better player than what we have right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just an attempt for him to try to get back into the league, because he has been out of the league, I believe, a year or two. But I feel like there's room for him in the NBA. I just don't think it's with the Pistons, because they have so many, power forwards and centers that are just scrapping for minutes right now.
He was kind of like a talk of Pistons fans like a couple of seasons ago when he was on the trade block for Sacramento, right? Like, I believe there were certain Pistons fans that were calling for him to be traded to Detroit.
I know Nick Henkel was
okay.
way before, like 3-4 years ago, before he was even in Sacramento. He's like, Harry Giles would be perfect for this basketball team. And I was just like, man, I just don't see it.
No, I think Omari Sankofa, too. I was going back and looking at this, and he wrote like a Pistons mailbag about Harry Giles being a free agent and the Pistons potentially taking a look at him then. And I think that was back in like 2019. But, hopefully Harry Giles, he makes it somewhere, whether it's on an NBA team or overseas. Go ahead and get your money. Now, let's talk about James Edwards' article. And it's all about lineups, man. It's all about lineups. So I'm going to take a look at this. I'm going to pull it up on my screen real quick.
Okay.
I get it. I'm a little confused by some of it, but here are his starters. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Bojan at the 3, Isaiah Stewart at the 4, Jalen Duren at the 5. Their minute breakdowns are Cade is 34 minutes, Jaden Ivey's 32, Bojan, Isaiah Stewart, 28 apiece, and Jalen Duren, 34. Do you think, based on just in the starting 5, do you think that's how the minutes will be broken down this year, or just to start the season?
I think it's a good prediction. The Duren at 34 minutes, I think it's dependent on foul trouble.
Yeah.
Because if he gets 2 fouls in the first 10 minutes, he's not probably going to play till the third quarter. But I think it kind of tells you what maybe James is hearing, or maybe this is just kind of a prediction from him.
Yeah, I really honestly think Jalen Duren will be closer to 28 minutes per game this upcoming season, just because potential foul trouble, but also they're going to have to find spots to really rest him to try to maximize it all, man. You can't just have him out there, even though he is young. But I mean, it's just you're going to have to really find where you can play him at. You're going to have to be real cautious with minutes, I feel like. Isaiah Stewart and Bojan at 28 apiece, that doesn't surprise me. That seems fair. I wouldn't even be surprised if Isaiah Stewart honestly finishes around like 24 minutes per game. It really wouldn't surprise me. I feel like at some point during the season, he's going to be his minutes are going to be based on matchup, and he might be the backup to Duren to spell him throughout the game. Cade and Jaden Ivey, I'm honestly not concerned about. Give them as many minutes as you possibly can. I honestly think Jaden Ivey might even lead this team in minutes per game. That dude just has a motor that just keeps on going. It doesn't seem like he ever gets tired. But what are your thoughts on the backcourt?
I'm not really too concerned with the minutes. I think the starting lineup is something that both of us have kind of agreed on.
Yeah.
Where it's just going to be Cade, Ivey, Bojan, Stewart, and Duren. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I don't think Asar cracks the starting lineup, not right away. I don't think Isaiah Liver plays the 4 because he can't stay healthy. I think this is probably the starting lineup that they're going to set out preseason and regular season.
Well, look at this, though. They have Isaiah Livers James Edwards has Isaiah Livers at 20 minutes. And it looks like Isaiah Livers would have to play the 4 based on how he put this out.
Yeah, he's projecting him as a 4.
Yeah, which I totally agree with. Asor at 20 minutes, Marvin Bagley. I feel like the bench is kind of low, though, don't you? I mean, I could see us doing a 10-man rotation. But Monte Morris at just 16 minutes per game, that seems too low for him. That's Kojo territory, man.
I'm not entirely sure. But I do want to pull up the rotation. I wasn't so much focused on the minutes. I was more focused on the bench unit. Like Monte Morris is your point guard, Alec Burks is your 2 guard, Asar at the 3, Isaiah Livers at the 4, and Bagley at the 5. So you're not playing Joe Harris, you're not playing Killian Hayes.
Wiseman.
You're not playing Wiseman. I don't understand why you trade for Joe Harris and you don't play him. Like that's weird.
I mean, I was caught off guard by that too. That's why. But I did take notice. I mean, the reason I wasn't caught off guard by just the 5 that he put off the bench, because you kind of expected it that way to go that way. Like I definitely thought Killian, it's going to be hard for him. It's going to be hard for him to get minutes beyond Monte Morris, Burks, Ivey, and Cade Cunningham. That's 4 guys that are going to play over him. I was just more shocked by the minutes per game for Monte Morris because I feel like he might be one of the leaders off the bench for us this year. And 16 just seems too low.
Yeah, I don't know. Like looking at the 10-man rotation, I don't think it's bad, but maybe Sasser's going to play in the G League. Who knows? I think there are, some people that are saying that could be a possibility. I feel like, Bagley and Wiseman could be interchangeable. I feel like if you want to play Wiseman at the backup 5, you could, but if Bagley is having a game where, he's just scoring more, then you're going to start Bagley. To your question with the minutes with Monte Morris, that James has Monte playing 60 minutes a game and Cade playing 34. Maybe he's just projecting, Cade's going to be out there more because maybe the games aren't going to be close. Maybe he wants to have, your star point guard out there longer than a backup point guard. That's the only thing I could think of. But I was really surprised Wiseman didn't crack his rotation in his predictions. I was surprised that even though Killian is basically a third string point guard, I thought at least maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But Monty does kind of keep a really tight rotation, even in Phoenix. And I know he didn't have the bench that Detroit has. It was only like 8 or 9 guys. It wasn't a really deep bench like Casey used to go 10, 11 deep while he was here. So I think everyone's going to have to really, fight for their spot. I don't think, playing time is just going to get thrown out there.
Yeah, I'll say real quick, I am shocked that Joe Harris, because I think right now, I mean, I do love Isaiah Livers. There's no secret about that. I just, man, Joe Harris could provide so much though for spacing offensively. And if Isaiah Livers' shot is falling, I mean, he shot around 42% his rookie year. It's in a small sample, but the shooting touch is there. He just has to find it again. I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to. I'm fine with the rotation. It's just the minutes per game that's bothering me, and I think it will definitely be different as the season goes on. It just seems like, I mean, is Monty Williams, does he rely on his starting five kind
I
of
mean,
like this?
he did in Phoenix, but to be fair, he didn't really have a deep bench in Phoenix. If you look back at their rosters, I think in Detroit we have a little bit of a deeper bench. But I think my biggest issue with this whole list, whether it's a prediction or whatever, you traded Joe for Joe Harris, and
Yeah.
he's not in the rotation at all. That to me is a red flag. That tells me maybe he's not healthy. Maybe his injury that he suffered last year is still lingering. Or maybe I'm just overreacting and reading too much into it. But I don't really understand why you spend a majority of your cap space and you're not giving that guy any kind of playing time. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't. Man, if you had to make a prediction on the starting lineup and the rotation, do you think yours would be pretty accurate to James Edwards, or do you think you'd have changes in yours?
I think the only thing I would change, it's hard. I don't know. Like, you obviously want Burks out there. You
Yeah.
want Monte Morris out there. You want a source for his defense. So that's point guard through small forward right there. Then you have power forward and center. If they're going to use Livers as a 4 in this situation, I understand it, but I'd kind of like to see Bagley at the 4 position. I don't want to see Bagley at center, and Bagley's even said he doesn't want to play center.
Yep.
He wants to play power forward. I'd rather kind of see a tandem of Bagley and Wiseman off your bench and let Asur and Isaiah Livers fight for minutes. Like, earn that spot. Like, to me, I'd rather see that, but maybe some fans wouldn't. I don't really understand why you trade for James Wiseman and he doesn't even crack your rotation. And you trade for a Joe Harris and he doesn't crack your rotation. I don't get it.
So here's what my rotation would be. I'll start with the starting lineup. I'd go Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. No questions about it. I would start Asur based on just what I've seen in Summer League. I'm basing it on that. Kid's ready. I'm going to play him at the 3. I'm going to move Bojan at the 4. I've already talked about this before. I'm going to move Isaiah Stewart off the bench. And I'm going to have Jalen Duren still starting. And then my bench unit would be Monty Morris, Alec Burks, Isaiah Livers, Joe Harris, and Isaiah Stewart. And I would push Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, and Killian Hayes out of the rotation. That would be my starting in my rotation for the Pistons.
Yeah, I don't expect Killian to get a lot of burn with the Pistons. You might even see him with the Crews, if I'm being honest. You might get the Saban Lee treatment.
Did I say Killian Hayes?
No,
Oh,
you
okay.
didn't mention, but like we've been talking about him a lot lately. But I know that might sound crazy, but like I don't think he's going to get playing time over Monte Morris.
Oh, I don't see him getting. I think even he'll get. I don't even think he'd get minutes over Marcus Sasser based on Summer League. And I'm being very serious about that. That is not Killian Hayes slander. I think Marcus Sasser, he kind of showed out, even though his shot wasn't falling. He showed out in Summer League, and he showed more to be more of a quality NBA player than Killian Hayes has.
Yeah, like I said, this is just a prediction. I love that James had the balls to put it out because I don't understand why you use 90% of your cap space to trade for Joe Harris and you don't put him in there. Like, I kind of projected him as like a 2-guard or a small forward. You even talked about him playing power forward. Like, maybe him and Livers fight for that power forward position. I don't really know if you want Joe Harris playing power forward. I'd rather it be Livers or even Bagley, but it's like I don't know, man. Like we're gonna have to wait and see how training camp holds because I think none of these positions are guaranteed. I think it's just gonna be a dogfight, and you're gonna have to earn your spot. It's not like years past where Casey was just throwing anybody out there just to play. I think a lot of these guys are going to have to earn their spot. It's not going to be given to them.
Do you have a problem with my rotation that I came up with, though?
No, it's really hard to put a rotation out. And I know we got a listener from Australia watching right now, and I 100% agree with them saying how Stu, Cade, Ivy, and Boyan will get as much run as possible because those are your best players. It's just going to be interesting to see how the minutes are kind of distributed, but I was really shocked to see no Joe Harris or Wiseman in there at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not shocked. I am shocked to see Marvin Bagley at the 5, considering the fact he said he didn't want to play the 5. And I'm with you. I'd rather see James Wiseman at the 5 over Marvin Bagley. And I'd rather see Isaiah Livers at the 4, though, over Marvin Bagley, though, too. Because I think defensively, he'd be all right doing that. And I think, just switching, the defensive versatility is just kind of cool when you think if you could potentially have Cade, Ivy, Asor, and Livers all playing together on the floor with Duren or Isaiah Stewart protecting the rim. But I don't know. I think Monte Morris is just that minutes, the 16 minutes, that just bothers me the most. But I'm okay with James Edwards' rotation. I eventually think he changes it, though, as the offseason continues. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting though that James doesn't think Joe Harris is going to get any kind of minutes, and you just traded this guy for your cap space.
Is there any part of you that thinks he might be teasing Pistons fans leaving Joe Harris out?
I don't know. I think it was just a prediction. I don't think it's like sourcing or anything like that. I don't think he has sources that Joe Harris is still injured or anything like that. But
no, but that's what I'm saying though. Like if you're not basing this on anything, it's just you just kind of having fun. Like, hey, this is what I think is going to happen. I might take a player out of the rotation just to kind of rile Pistons fans up because you're going to get more clicks that way if you do something that most fans would disagree with.
Yeah, like I was kind of surprised by it, to be honest with you, but I think Pistons fans would have their pitchforks out if they traded for Joe Harris and he doesn't even crack the rotation, man. Like there's no point in it. Like why trade for him? To help Brooklyn sign Cameron Johnson? And that's who Pistons fans wanted? Like I don't get it. But if that does happen, expect Twitter just to be crazy.
Troy Weaver's playing the long game with these contracts, man.
Oh my god,
dude! I don't know what else to say. That's just what it feels like. He's just pushing this restoring just a little more down the road for all of us. I want to ask you this though. This is our next topic. Do you think Asor Thompson is the best defensive player on the roster right now, or is it too early to give him that title? Because there was that graphic that showed Jalen Duren as the best defensive player, which I thought was kind of silly because you could tell they never watched the Pistons.
I thought like Killian is a good defender.
Yeah.
Even though, we talk about him ad nauseum, and we try to be as positive as possible, but people think we just hate him. We don't hate him.
I praise his defense.
Yeah, same here. I think Killian is one of the better defenders on this team. I think Stewart's a good defender. I don't know if I would call him the best, though. And I haven't seen Asar Thompson play against legit NBA players yet. Like, he dominated G League players and guys that are probably going to go play in the European League. I think if I had to say a Piston, it's probably Killian Hayes right now. Okay. Or even Cade Cunningham. Like, Cade's a good defender, too. Like, I honestly couldn't pick one. I don't know. I'll just say that. I don't want to pick one because there's just so many, up and coming young players on this team that are good defenders. Like Cade's a good defender. Killian's a good defender. Isaiah Stewart has his moments. Same with Jalen Duren. Like I'll ask you, who's the best defender on this team? Because I can't pick one.
Based on last year, I would have said either Killian Hayes or Isaiah Stewart. Those would have been my picks, and I tweeted that out as well. But I do want it so badly for Asor Thompson to be the number one defense player right now. That's the fan in me. I think at the end of the regular season, he will be. But for me, again, the title either goes to Killian Hayes or Isaiah Stewart, and I would give Isaiah Stewart the notch over Killian Hayes just because of that one defensive stat from Isaiah Stewart. I've repeated it on this podcast the last 2 weeks, and I'll say it here again. And I still have not looked this up, so I don't know if it's within 6 feet, but I believe it was within 6 feet. Isaiah Stewart held other big men or other players 10% lower than what their average field goal percentage was. And I think that was his second year in the league that he did that. That's big time. And I'm giving the nod to Isaiah Stewart. I just thought the graphic was funny putting Jalen Duren. I just think you just saw a big man, and you're like, yeah, Jalen Duren, he's athletic. He can block shots. He's the best defender. And you have not watched any of the Pistons. And I don't blame you. 17 wins. Nobody's going to blame you for not doing that. But if you were really going to put a graphic together, it should have either been Killian Hayes or Isaiah Stewart, but Isaiah Stewart for me.
It's too early to crown Asor as the best defensive player on this team, but I think he has potential to possibly be the best lockdown defender on this team. Like I've mentioned, like 4 or 5 players on this team, but like Cade, Stewart, I think is a consideration. Killian's in consideration. I think you can even put Asor Thompson into the mix. Even Isaiah Livers has his moments as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good players on this team, even though we only had 17 wins last year. I mean, there's some dogs on this team defensively.
Yeah, I think I was just kind of in shock by Pistons fans, some Pistons fans, let me say that, some, that were already labeling Asor Thompson the best defensive player on the Detroit Pistons, because I'm with you. I think it's way too early. Mm-hmm. I mean, he showed a lot in Summer League, and there's a lot of skills. A lot of those intangibles will translate to the NBA, but there's going to be growing pains for him this year. But I also will say that by the end of the regular season, I wouldn't be surprised if we're all saying that he's the best defensive player, because he's not going to have the same offensive responsibility as a Cade Cunningham. That's why I won't give it to Cade. I think Cade will still be fantastic on that side of the ball. I just think Asor Thompson, that's where his calling card will be this season. You know, trying to lock down the other team's best player. Shout out to you for mentioning Isaiah Livers, because he is a fantastic defender as well.
Even though he got dunked on, it seemed like every other game, at least he was out there trying. That's all I want to say. Like, I applaud the effort, and he didn't really have a whole lot of help side defense. But like I said, the Pistons have a lot of dogs defensively. I'm probably going to agree with you with Stewart. I think it's, as of right now, it's his. But I think Asar Thompson could take that crown this season.
Let's talk about this next topic, though, because I find this one to be pretty interesting as well, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it. Is Andre Drummond loved by the Pistons fan base? I think it's more of a love-hate relationship between the fan base, really. I think there are some of us that appreciate Andre Drummond and everything he did for Detroit, even though he didn't win any championships. He was an all-star. He was an all-NBA team member, led the league in rebounding. He gave us hope when no other player did. He was a lottery pick that actually panned out for a number of years in Detroit. He was not the second coming of Dwight Howard, unfortunately. But there was a lot to love about his time in Detroit. And I think when he retires, most Pistons fans will acknowledge him for what he was and give him his flowers. Unfortunately, not all of us are giving him his flowers right now. But what are your thoughts? What do you think he is? Do you think he's loved by the Pistons fan base?
I feel like it's a mixed reaction. Like, I know I like him, and I appreciated everything he did for Detroit.
Yeah.
But I'm not everybody else on Twitter or even social media. Like, Marquise watching on Facebook says, I love Drummond, but on someone else's team. Like, people like Drummond, but I think the discourse among fans is the ones that didn't like Andre Drummond were the ones that were upset with him making, rap music in the offseason and not being in the gym, which you can have a hobby. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people just wanted to see more from him development-wise. They wanted to see him work on his post game. He still doesn't really have a post game. Like, he's a good rim runner. He's good at blocking shots. He's good at rebounding. But, like, he never really focused in on his post game. Like, Greg Monroe had a deeper bag in the post than Andre Drummond did.
Love Greg Monroe.
Yeah, shout out to Greg Monroe. He just grew up in the wrong era. He'd be a beast in the 90s.
Early 2000s too. Like, I mean, yeah. I know he was there towards more of the 2010s, but man, you draft him in like 1999. Oh my God, dude. He was Al Jefferson.
Yeah. But we drafted him. We gave him a max contract, and, we watched him make the playoffs twice here. Even though we got swept both times, I think most of the fan base appreciates, and, they love Drummond. Now, they don't work out. They win a championship? No. But you like those kind of stories of, keeping a guy, drafting a guy, and I think we all got fooled by the summer videos.
God, he was just draining threes, man. It was unreal. I think it was. When did you notice he wasn't like an elitist to the championship? Like, what year was it for you? Because let's all be honest. Early on, and everybody was right. He did not beat Kemba Walker in races. Let me just make that. It's been on my mind all week. It was Shabazz Napier. That's who I was thinking of. My apologies. But what year for you were you like, okay, Andre Drummond's not it? Andre Drummond's not the franchise player, I should say.
When Van Gundy tried to make him into prime Dwight Howard.
Was that his third year or his fourth year?
I don't even remember. See, I want to, because the question you asked, I kind of feel like it's unfair.
Yeah.
Because I thought Andre Drummond, as a player, was a good player. Guy could set screens like no other. He was a good rim runner. He had, like, when he was locked in, he could shut down anybody. He could move his feet very well. I mean, there are highlights of him, stealing the ball from Dwayne Wade in his rookie year. Like, when he was locked in, and when he was coached by like Rasheed Wallace while he was here for a very short time, he was very engaged and very active defensively. I think my biggest issue with the whole Drummond era was trying to make him into something he wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't a Dwight Howard, and that's okay. He was closer to a Clint Capella than he was a Dwight Howard. And Clint Capella is a very good player, and he's still, cashing big checks in the NBA. I feel like if the Pistons just focused in on what he was good at and then trying to force him in something that he wasn't great at, which was, working in the post and working on his post moves and free throws, it just play to his strengths. Just use him as a rim runner. Use him as someone to grab rebounds. Use him as, someone to block shots. Like, and they just didn't do that. And I think that's the reason why the Drummond era failed the way they did. And we just gave out really bad contracts. Like, I think his tenure here wasn't on him. It was more on the organization, not getting him a real point guard to play with. And that's no shot at Reggie Jackson or Brandon Jennings. They were great players, but like, he needed an elite guard. He needed a top 10 point guard to play with. And I think his career would have shaped out a lot differently.
Yeah, I want to say, for me, the year where I was just like, okay, Andre Drummond is not Dwight Howard. This is his fifth year. That was Stan Van Gundy's third year as the coach, I believe. And if I could be wrong, but that's the year they went 37-45. He averaged a cool 14-14, almost 2 steals, almost 2 blocks. That was the year, though, where I'm like, it's just never going to happen for him. He's never going to be that guy. But, and I'm with you too. If they had gotten him a quality point guard, again, no offense to Reggie Jackson, I was stoked when the Pistons traded for him. I thought he was going to average 18 and 9 in Detroit. That's how crazy I was about Reggie Jackson. Because I think he did something like that in Oklahoma City when he was playing in spot of an injured Russell Westbrook at that moment. He put up some ridiculous numbers. And I'm like, man, if you could get him on a starting team, give him his own team, he'll be just a freaking all-star. But it would be Andre Drummond's fifth year for me where I'm like, Yeah, man, he's more of like a superstar role player than he is a franchise player. But I don't know. I still love Andre Drummond, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. Just watching those Cade videos, him setting screens for Cade, like I was like, man, imagine if Cade Cunningham was on the same team as Andre Drummond, like when he was younger. Like that pick and roll would be lethal, and that was my point. Like he never really got an elite point guard to play with. Like Brandon Jennings had a run before he tore his Achilles against the Bucks where he was putting up great numbers, and him and Drummond and everyone else were going crazy. When we traded for Reggie Jackson and he was putting up 18 points and 9 assists, and John Wall was bitching about their contracts, basically. They were playing good basketball, but I don't hate Drummond. I hate how the Pistons handled and how they managed the team while he was here. But other than that, I mean, he showed out.
Yeah, he did. He did. I forgot Reggie Jackson. I'm looking at the numbers right now. He did average 19 and 6. His first full season in Detroit when he played 79 games. God, that is crazy to think about. Man.
Yeah,
that's when they went 44 and 38. That was crazy.
Yeah, first 28 games, Reggie averaged 18 and 9.
That's where I'm getting that from. 18 and 9. He did do it. That's right. I remember thinking he's going to be a multiple-time All-Star in Detroit after that. And then his second year, 18 and 6. That was still pretty good, very respectable. Man, I miss Brandon Jennings, though, too. But, man, damn. Yeah, you're right. Detroit failed him big time. We can move on to Q&A, though.
Yeah, we can do that real quick. I'm going to give you a question from Cameron because I think is Cameron the one that you've been talking with on Twitter a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so he wants you to predict Cade's stats.
Okay.
And you're going to answer that real quick while I take a bathroom break. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Give me a stats prediction for Cade. I've said this before. I'll say 24 points. I'm going to stick with that. I think that's a good number. He was out all last season. I think the efficiency will get up, but I'll get into that in a second. I'm going to say 24 points per game. I'm going to say 7 assists, which I've said. I've said 24, 7, and 7 plenty of times. And I really like that stat line. I think that's damn near an all-star. Those are great numbers. I don't know why some people argue with me. So I'm going to stick with that. 24, 7, and 7. I'm going to say 1 steal per game and almost 1 block per game. And I'm going to say he averages 3 turnovers per game. Probably people hate to see that. But his shooting numbers, I will say he's going to take a leap shooting-wise. I'll say 45% from the field, 37% from 3, and I'll say he hovers around like 83% from the line. That would be my shooting splits for Cade Cunningham. And if you don't like him, I'm sorry, but that is what I am saying for Cade Cunningham.
And I love people on Facebook that thought I was taking a deuce back in 5.
You never do that.
Nah, it's just usually to take a quick piss, but I drink way too much water. That's my problem. What did you say? Like 24, 7, and 7, probably.
Dude, you know me so well.
Is that what you said?
7. Yeah, that's been my stat line for. But I'll tell you my shooting split. So I also said 3 turnovers, 1 steal per game, and like just a little under a block per game. But I said 45, 37, and 83 for the shooting splits.
I could see that. I think I'll be basic. I don't think he's going to average as many points.
Okay.
I think the assists are going to be up, though. I think he's going to be like 21, 9, and 8.
Why do you say 21? What's the thinking behind that?
I think learning Monty's system and the ball movement that Monty preaches a lot, I think that's why I have his points per game a little bit lower. And I think he's just going to be a true floor general out there. I think he could easily average 9 assists.
See, I was higher in points and I was a little bit lower in assists, but I could see him averaging 8 to 9 assists per game. But the reason I say 7 is because there's so much ball movement in Monty's system that I feel like you're probably going to see 3 to 4 players average 4 or more assists per game. And I'll say Cade, Jaden Ivey, Monte Morris for sure will average 4 or more assists per game. And a guy that I could see averaging close to 4 games is Asor Thompson. So I just think there's going to be so much ball movement in that 0.5 offense that I would be more surprised if the assist numbers were lower than actually what we're predicting, just because there is so much movement in the offense.
Yeah, I just think the assist numbers would be a little bit higher just because the 0.5 offense, like you had mentioned, and I think playing with Ivy too. They really didn't get to build any type of chemistry, and obviously Ivy's gonna want to get his as well. Yeah. And then you also have Bojan, which Cade and Bojan, if you guys go back and watch some of the games last year, they were building some chemistry.
Oh yeah,
Cade and Bojan were just lighting teams up. Obviously, we weren't playing any defense, but they were lighting teams up. But 24-7 and 7, I don't really think that's a bad prediction. I personally think that I think he's going to have a career in assist under Monty. I just do.
I mean, I'm not going to hate it. What do you think? Do you think we could potentially see 2 20-point scorers in this offense next year? And who are they?
I think they're Bojan and Cade.
Okay. Man, I think it's Cade and Jaden Ivey, 24 and 21. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Jay Williams, that's watching on Facebook, had a great comment. I want to put it on the screen real quick. He said, kind of like how Devin Booker was playing when CP3 was out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to the Phoenix Suns when they first started, putting it together, like the bubble Suns to the Pistons now. I think they can have a similar type of run.
I do got another question, though, from Cameron. I want to ask you this, see what you say about it. And this comes from a tweet from Last Chance, where he was basically tweeting out that Monty might overrule, or Troy might overrule Monty in his coaching decisions. So Cameron's question was, do you believe that Troy will play a hands-off approach with Monty in regards to the lineups? I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah. I don't know why Troy Weaver would question Monty Williams, especially with the amount of money that they are paying him. I mean, he's a professional coach. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I don't think we've ever heard of Troy Weaver butting into when Dwayne Casey was putting lineups on the floor. Now, there might be a moment or two where a GM says, hey, I kind of want to see this guy a little bit more. Is there any way we got a stretch of games coming up? Maybe you could sit one guy for a few more minutes per game and get this guy a few more minutes per game. I could see something like that, but I'm going to go ahead and say that Monty Williams will have full control of the lineup rotation this year.
Yeah, like I know where this comment is coming from. Troy had an interview during the summer league, and I think it was Ty Alexander had asked Troy, because Troy used to be a college coach for people that don't know. He used to coach at Syracuse under was it Jim Boeheim?
Yeah,
I want to say. So Troy does have some coaching experience. He's like, you ever like go in there and tell a coach how to run stuff? And he's like, no. He's like, I might whisper in the development coach's ear if he sees something that he believes that they should be doing or they should be working on. But I think Troy just sticks to his GM job. I don't think he's going to go into practice and tell Monty, hey, I don't like how you're playing this player. Do it this way. I think Troy's just going to let Monty be Monty and let him coach, because he has way more experience in the coaching field than Troy does. I wouldn't really worry about that. But I think that the biggest issue is probably that clip that people did see of Troy saying that, he'll go to a development coach and tell him, hey, I want you to do this instead of this.
I think that's fair, though. I mean, there's nothing wrong with like another set of eyes and ears, from a guy that is overall managing the team. But I do think that I do not believe for a second he'll go up to Monty and say, "I need you to do this." Maybe there are some GMs that do that. I just don't think Troy's one of those guys. I think he gives absolute trust to the guys he hires to do their job.
Yeah. I want to put this comment on the screen from Mega Hustle because I know this is completely different. He said on paper the Pistons team is better than the Heat team that just went to the finals. Pistons just need to stay healthy. Their only downfall. Dude, I love that comment. I don't believe it, but I absolutely love that comment. Like, shout out to Mega Hustles. He's in here every week. I think the Pistons will get there though. We don't have a Jimmy Butler yet.
You gotta love the optimism, man. Love it. I love it. But I mean, could you imagine if like the Heat and the Pistons combined, they would come away with the championship?
Yeah.
Oh man, I wonder how many guys on the Pistons roster would crack the Miami Heat rotation from last year's roster, not this year's roster.
No, I don't know.
Bojan?
Yeah.
Bojan probably.
That's probably it.
Jaden Ivey too. We got to throw him out there.
So D-Knit had a funny comment. It said Cade on one leg, 26-6.
Ooh.
Cade on two legs, 24-8-8. Easy.
Okay. I like that people are sticking with the 24. That seems like a pretty reasonable number for him to have next year. But I'm surprised nobody's saying anything. What do people think his shooting splits will be? Again, I said 45, 37, and 83.
I didn't really see too many shooting comments, like shooting split comments. They're just saying like if Cade shot like 37% from three, he could easily be a 25-point game. Hakeem the Dream said if Cade shot 37% from deep, he'd be averaging 28 points a game easily. Nice. Yeah, I mean, like if the 3-point shot is falling at a high clip, 100% agree with Hakeem the Dream. My thing is more of like learning the offense because I think it's a learning curve. I don't think they're going to come out the gate, just being like the number one seed in the Eastern Conference for the first week of the season.
I mean, if anybody expects that, they're crazy.
Yeah, like I don't expect like a Utah Jazz type of like when the Jazz came out and Jazz were like a top 3 seed for like a month of the season, and everyone's like, dude, what the fuck?
And that's with Walker Kessler only getting 20 minutes.
Yeah, Lee Wells says 46% from the field, 35 from 3, and 82 from the stripe.
Okay. I like that. That's a good one, too.
Okay. Cameron said he sent you a trade proposal on Twitter.
Oh, you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, give me 1 second. Here it is. Okay, so the Raptors get Marvin Bagley and Killian Hayes.
Okay.
And the Pistons get Malachi Flynn, Otto Porter Jr., Thaddeus Young, 2026 and 2027 second-round picks.
Cameron, I know where you got that, buddy.
He
got that from Bleacher Report.
Oh, that's Bleacher Reports? Okay.
No, shout to Cameron, man. Appreciate you, bud. Yeah. Oh, God. I almost put that in the prep, but I didn't want to. Did you see the Killian Hayes one and Marvin Bagley?
Well, I just see is it with another team other than the Raptors?
Yeah, so Bleacher Report did a piece where they make at least one trade, and this was the Raptors trade on their end.
Okay.
The Pistons trade, I'm scrolling on my Twitter right now, so I do apologize.
No, go ahead. Take your time.
Hold on. I got to turn my Wi-Fi back on because I was looking a little fuzzy there on StreamYard, but
it looked clear to me, but I got bad eyes.
I'm looking for this trade because it's so bad. Once I read it to you, you're going to do like, hell no, what's Bleacher Report smoking?
Well, what about this trade while you're scrolling, though? Raptors get Marvin Bagley and Killian Hayes. I like that for the Pistons. I think that's – I don't know. That might be too much that the Raptors are giving up, though, for the Pistons.
All right, so I got this Bleacher Report trade. Now, this is with the Spurs, okay?
Okay.
Now, Everyone listening, just know me and Lance would never make this trade. This is probably the worst trade I've ever seen. It's just from BleacherReport.com, and someone gets paid to write articles for a living. Pistons would get Reggie Bullock back. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yes.
One-time Piston. The Pistons would trade, get this, Marvin Bagley, a 2024 second-round pick, most favorable from Memphis or Washington via Detroit, a 2026 second-round pick, most favorable from Minnesota and New York. So Bleacher Report would have the Pistons trading one of their best bench pieces in Marvin Bagley and 2 seconds to trade for Reggie Bullock. Hell no. Hell no. That was the most garbage. When I was making that graphic, I was like, man, Pistons fans are going to hate this. I already know it. Even people on Facebook like, dude, quit making these trade proposals. You're pissing me off. They're terrible.
Yeah, he averaged 7 points, shot 40% from the field, and 38% from three. I mean, the 3-point percentage isn't bad, but that's too much to give up for Reggie Bullock. That's a garbage trade. And Bleacher Report, whoever came up with that, they should be fired immediately. And we should get to see the boss fire him. Stream that out so I can watch that and enjoy it. That's how bad that trade is.
Yeah, I mean, some of the articles Bleacher Report puts out, I'm like, dude, they're just trying to get clicks.
There's just no thought into it. But what about this? Let's go back to this Raptors and Pistons one, though. You're not really commenting on it. So, again, Raptors get Marvin Bagley and Killian Hayes, which I think most Pistons fans would be excited about shipping those guys out. And then the Detroit Pistons get Malachi Flynn, Otto Porter Jr., Thaddeus Young, in 2026 and 2027 second-round picks.
If I'm a Raptors fan, I hate that.
Yeah.
If I'm a Pistons fan, I love it.
Oh, it's great.
You get 2 vets, and Otto Porter Jr., who was a big contributor to the Golden State Warriors' last championship run. Big-time contributor. You get Thaddeus Young, who has been in the league for quite some time. Not the same player he used to be, but, he's a good vet. Malachi Flynn, who he's an okay piece. I wouldn't really get too excited about that, but getting 2 second-round picks, if that trade was on the table, I'm pretty sure Troy Weaver would make that trade.
Oh, in a heartbeat. I don't know where they all fit, but I like Malachi Flynn's game. I like Otto Porter Jr. I mean, you're probably pushing Isaiah Livers out of the rotation with Otto Porter Jr., but you're getting another good piece in Thaddeus Young, who, good veteran, could teach you guys how to win. Yeah, that's a really great trade for the Detroit Pistons. And, again, it's another Bleacher Report one. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. We do have a couple more questions that I do want to get to. Did we talk about Cade Cunningham with the most improved player odds?
Yeah, we talked about him, I think, 2 episodes ago.
So Eli wants to know, which his YouTube name is hilarious. You guys think Cade has a good chance to win most improved player?
Yeah, I mean, Bridges was number 1, I believe, and then I don't even know. I think Evan Mobley was in that one. Scotty Barnes was in there somewhere. I think Cade was number 2 when we talked about it. I don't know what the odds are now. I might actually still have this pulled up in my bookmarks. Just give me a chance to take a look. But, yeah, I think he has a great shot at it. Coming off another injury, only playing 12 games. 26-6 is what he averaged last year. I love his odds for winning most improved player. And I wish the Pistons I wish the NBA had a comeback player of the year. Do they still do that? Because he should get that award too.
Yeah, I kind of told you my stance on it. I thought Jock had to win the award personally. Because I just remember most improved kind of being a player that maybe didn't score a whole lot, but then they kind of just it was more of kind of a box score award to me. If you just NBA media members that vote on these awards, just box score watchers, he went from 5 points a game to 15. He's most improved. I think Cade does have a good shot though to answer Eli's question. but he would have to just come out just dropping like close to 27 points a game for the media to even pay attention to the Pistons. And I think they know that. I mean, even Cade has said that himself, that he knows that, people aren't really, watching Detroit. They don't get a lot of primetime games like other teams do. It's not like the Lakers and you have half of your games televised because you got LeBron James. But I think there's a shot he could be in consideration for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an award that's up for grabs. Do you think you could finish top 3 though? Maybe not win the award, but finish top 3.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't count that out. I just wouldn't, like, if you're a betting man, I wouldn't bet on that. I think Mikal Bridges would be my bet, because I think Mikal Bridges is going to get such an opportunity in Brooklyn that he could easily average 30 points a game this year.
I mean, once defenses start figuring them out, once they're game planning for you, it becomes a little tougher to do that.
Yeah. Did want to answer a question from Jay, who's watching on Facebook, because we are also live on Facebook if you guys are watching there. He asked, can Ivy be a two-coming of Russell Westbrook? I know that's a comp that a lot of people gave him out of college, like John Morant, Russell Westbrook. So we'll kind of rephrase the question. Do you think Jaden Ivey could have a similar career to Russell Westbrook?
I think the one thing we will constantly, the biggest similarity between these two is what I want to see from Jaden Ivey as well, is just more rim pressure. Just attacking the rim, putting pressure on the defense, creating shooting opportunities just by putting his head down and going downhill towards the rim. That's where I see the Russell Westbrook comparison. I don't think he's as good of a rebounder as Russell Westbrook. So, I mean, if I'm comparing the careers, I don't ever see Jaden Ivey averaging a triple-double. And again, I don't ever see him being an MVP candidate either. Maybe a few-time All-Star, I could see that, because Ivey definitely has some exciting moments like he did that his rookie year. Summer League, we saw some fantastic stuff from him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really see other than the athleticism and the insane speed from Jaden Ivey, I just don't see that much similarities between their games. I think Jaden Ivey also has a opportunity to be a more polished player than Russell Westbrook from that guard spot, if even that makes sense. I always thought Russell Westbrook was kind of chaotic as a basketball player, like very good, but did not play with a lot of control. And I see Ivey starting to play with a little bit more control to his game.
Yeah, I think Ivey, I've always told you my comp, even you can go back last year when we were doing podcasts. I've always kind of viewed him more of a Victor Oladipo when he was in Indiana. I think he's closer to that than a Russell Westbrook. I think Russell Westbrook is one of one. I don't really think you're going to see another Russell Westbrook. He's still putting up numbers, and it feels like he's been in the NBA for 15 years. He's just a phenomenal athlete. I think Jaden Ivey's a great athlete as well. I just don't think he's going to go out there averaging a triple-double, dunking on people, any of that stuff. I think, to your point, I think he made so much strides last year in terms of not making too many mistakes, improved his three-point shooting, and he played more under control. I think for him, I think I would look at a Victor Oladipo. I'm not to other Pistons fans saying he's D-Wade 2.0, because I think, again, Dwayne Wade was a phenomenal player. They did have similar stats as rookies, but I think if I were looking at a modern player in the NBA, it would probably be Indiana Victor Oladipo for me personally.
Yeah, I like the Victor Oladipo comp so much more than I like the Russell Westbrook or the Dwayne Wade. I mean, those are great players. And it's not saying Jaden Ivey couldn't be. It's just, like you were saying, Russell Westbrook is a one of one. You will probably never see another point guard like him. He's just unreal. But that rim pressure, Jaden Ivey, those are the similarities. And Dwayne Wade, he's one of probably the three, in my opinion, he's one of the three greatest shooting guards of all time behind Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So, I'm glad people want to see that from Jaden Ivey. I just think those are way too of lofty expectations from him. But Victor Oladipo, yeah, there's some similarities between those two. I think that's a really fair one too.
Yeah, it's like I just don't want to put the expectations on him, like people calling him the next Westbrook, and he doesn't pan out, and then you have people calling him a bust in a few years. Like he's a good player, but I think just let Jaden Ivey be Jaden Ivey. There's similarities in John Morant, Russell Westbrook, Dwayne Wade, and Victor Oladipo. He's got a little bit of all. He's taken a little bit of all of their games and put it into his. But I think he's a player that he could be a sneaky guy that could average 20 points this year as well. You never know.
I think he'll average like 21, 5 and 5. I wouldn't be surprised if he put that up.
Yeah, you never know. I did want to answer this question from MBWell because we don't really get to talk about this guy a lot. He's technically a Piston, but we haven't really seen him play. He was a second-round draft pick, and he wants to know if there's any new intel on Gabriel Procida.
God, I wish there was.
There is.
Oh, okay.
Enlighten
me.
So the Pistons flew Procida out to the Summer League, and some people were saying, oh, he's going to play on the team. Well, he never played. He watched, which I was kind of surprised. I thought they would at least, give him some kind of playing time. I mean, they did it with Servetus, but he didn't play. He did practice with the team, but that's about it. Nothing crazy. He's back in Italy right now, and he's going to be on the Italy's training camp starting in August. So he has made the training camp roster with another former Piston, Gigi Datome.
Oh, okay.
So Procida is going to be playing in the World Cup. He's going to try to make Team Italy's roster if he can, but I don't know if the Pistons still have his rights. I don't know what happened with Summer League. I don't know if it was a visa thing because sometimes that could be an issue. I don't know if they have to submit their rosters at a certain date because they did cut a couple of guys, but they never really filled the roster. I was hoping to see him, but I think Malcolm, the Pistons' new two-way guy, the French guard, he kind of showed me a lot where I think he's going to spend a lot of time in the G League, and I think he's a guy that a lot of Pistons fans may just look at and forget about Procida.
No. We're going to be talking about Gabriel Procida like 10 years from now if he's ever going to play for the Pistons. I hope he does at some point, man. I would love to see Gabe. I don't know what it is about him either. When I see those clips of him just throwing it down on people, I get really excited. And, man, I just really want him to be a piece of this team, man. I really do.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised he didn't play a single minute in Summer League, but could have been a visa thing. It could have been a number of things, but he's going to play with Piston legend Gigi Datome and try to play for Team Italy. So I think if you're a Piston fan and you want to see him play, you're going to be watching a lot of World Cup this summer to see how he looks.
Isn't it pretty cool that him and Cade both got invites to their national teams? And they're both kind of on like the select teams of their country. Tells you something.
Well, Cade turned it down. I don't know if Procida can actually make Team Italy.
Whoa. He can totally make Team Italy. Look, he's a Piston until he's traded. You got to root for him to make Team Italy.
Yeah, I mean,
he's representing us. He's representing us.
He could be a balsa type of second round pick when we just trade his rates to the Clippers.
Don't say that. Don't kill the dream. You know my dream. Pistons, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. They need a little bit more offensive firepower. The Italian national song or whatever it is, that gets played. Gabriel Procida, he walks off the plane wearing his country's flag as a cape, and he is our Tony Kukoc for the dynasty. That's what I want. Don't kill the dream yet, man.
I don't think he's going to play for the Pistons. If he can't even crack the Summer League team, that tells me a lot.
Maybe they don't want to show him out yet. Maybe that's what it is.
Or maybe they looked at the shooting splits on Basketball Reference and say, yeah, I don't think so.
Do you think that there are GMs that do that? They're like, before they do a trade, like, hey, really quick, let me just Google these guys. Let me go to Basketball Reference and fine. Let me look at Thaddeus Young's shooting numbers. Nope, don't want them. They're not that good.
I don't know. If they did, they're probably not a good GM. Got one more question from Ryan, and then we can wrap it up because it seems like we do a 2-hour podcast every Sunday. I feel like we're one of the very few Pistons podcasts that does a podcast that's longer than an hour each week.
Let me just say real quick, because I know we do say this at the end. I just love everybody that participates in watching us and gives us the viewership and that stays with us for almost the entire 2 hours. You guys are awesome, and you guys are who we do it for.
Yeah. We do it for guys like this that watch each and every week and always ask questions, and he's always engaged. That's Ryan. So Ryan asks, should we be expecting to see a trade to bring in a legitimate power forward this season or summer?
Man, like kind of like what we did with Bojan last year, where that trade just kind of came out of nowhere in September, right before the season started. I'm not going to say we expect it during this summer, but I wouldn't be surprised if Troy moves like a Joe Harris or something during the season to bring in. I think they want to see what they have in Isaiah Stewart first. I think they want to see if he can be a legit 4 in the NBA. And if the alarms get set off where they're like, no, he can't be, then you can expect a trade. I still think there's a role for Isaiah Stewart. You heard me earlier in the podcast. I expect him to be the backup 5 at some point during the season. And I wouldn't be surprised once he starts to show like, hey, I don't know if he can be. He's better off the bench. Let's go get a power forward. That might be the only way you see one come in.
I wanted to look up power forward free agents for 2024 because I feel like that's one position right now that, not to say that we lack depth because we have it. It's just, I don't want to say the players aren't up to par, but I feel like that's one position where we could get better at. Like, I like Isaiah Stewart. I'm really rooting for him. I hope he could just become a knockdown stretch 4 and just, give other teams hell on the defenseman of the floor. But you look at guys like a Pascal Siakam, for example, who's on the last year of a $37 million contract. Now, trading for a guy of that caliber, you're probably going to have to trade a lot, and it's a risk because he'll be a free agent going into next summer. But that's the type of player I would look at. I know the Pacers, I swear that if the Pacers get him, man, like, I'll be sick to my stomach. The Pacers have had such a great offseason. They got Obi Toppin for basically nothing. Like, I would have loved Obi Toppin here, personally.
That'd been cool.
I mean, they got him for nothing. But there's him. Let me look at the other forward positions. I know Ryan has mentioned Pascal a couple of times. You got guys like Tobias Harris, former Piston, who Pistons Reddit was speculating so hard today. They said that they saw Tobias Harris at the airport in Detroit. And I'm like, his brother played at EMU. His sister's from here. Like, you guys are just speculating over nothing. There's guys like that. I mean, other than Pascal and Tobias going into 2024 for free agency, there's not a whole lot of guys where you would really get excited about. I mean, I think the next highest guy you could look at is maybe a Jared Vanderbilt. That's not like a star. You could have a debate whether he's better than Isaiah Stewart or not, but like, there's not a lot of big time power forwards that are available on the open trade market where you wouldn't have to give up one of your core pieces.
I mean, what if like an Isaiah Livers, he ends up being like the starting 4 at some point? Is that legitimate enough? Like, I mean, he's about the size, like the height of a PJ Washington. Probably not. He's not as thick as him, but you could probably see that. I mean, I think it's Isaiah Stewart's job to lose. I love him more in the backup at the 4 and the 5 more than I would like him at the starting 4. But it's his position to lose. And again, just to answer Ryan's question, you might see a trade during the season.
Yeah, or maybe next summer.
True.
I think the Pistons are really banking on development with Stewart. And I think they just want to see a full season of him next to Duran to see like what they could possibly have. And if Stewart proves a lot of people wrong and he just comes out shooting like 35 to 36% from three, and he's playing good help side defense, he's switching everything with Duran, and they look like a tandem. Like they look like the dog pound is what they call themselves. Like, I'm willing to be patient enough because I just don't think that there's a power forward right now that's obtainable for the Pistons.
Yeah.
Where they could get it. Like, I think if you really want like a Siakam, you're probably giving up a pretty good piece because Toronto, I don't know what they're doing personally. Like, are they rebuilding? Are they retooling? Do they want to make the playoffs? Do they want a lottery pick? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if Pascal Siakam is. I would love to see him in a Pistons uniform. I just don't know if he's a legitimate, if he's realistic. There's a realistic opportunity to bring him into Detroit. But then again, didn't think Rasheed Wallace would be here either. Who knows?
One player that would fit like a glove is, I know Sue just had said it, it's Lauri Markkanen.
God,
and there's no way Utah's trading Lauri Markkanen after the season he had.
You probably have a better chance of bringing in Taylor Hendricks than you do Lauri Markkanen.
Literally, yeah. There's this. I don't know. I'm just going to be patient, see what Stewart can do, see if he can live up to that contract that's going into effect next season, see how he can develop under, Monty Williams. He calls him the heart and soul of this team.
Yeah.
And he hasn't really, coached him in a game yet. So that kind of tells you a lot about his character and just the type of player he is. But I think let's develop what we have and, maybe down the line if there's a move, maybe you make that Rasheed Wallace type of move for that missing piece. Maybe you do it, but I just don't think there's one out there that's available. I know I saw some people on Twitter this week make a Karl Anthony Towns trade.
Yeah, I saw that.
I would love it, but I don't think the T-Wolves would do that. They probably want to get rid of Rudy Gobert before Cat.
They looked a little better without Karl Anthony Towns, though, when the offense was being ran strictly through Anthony Edwards. I don't know. I think, like I said, that big trade is coming at some point. Maybe not this year, but when the Pistons are one player away from really competing, we'll see it happen.
Yeah, I think we just have to be patient and let these young guys develop because you can look. I was having a debate with someone on YouTube. They're talking about Killian Hayes and we need to be patient with him, and mentioned took Chauncey Billups a good 5 to 6 years before, he put it all together in Minnesota. And I'm not using that comparison for the argument, but what I wanted to say is a lot of these guys that we drafted aren't even in their, fourth or fifth year yet. Like Killian's going into his fourth year, same as Stewart, but we probably won't know what they are until 5 or 6, year 5 or 6, of what type of player they may be. So we just have to be patient with these young guys and let them grow and develop.
I kind of already have an idea of what kind of player Killian Hayes would be. I've said it before. We don't get into it again, though.
Yeah, you said EuroLeague MVP. He said it off air.
Did I? Yes. Oh, that's funny.
But we could wrap up. We could tell the people how they could support the podcast, where they can find it, where they can find you on social media, get those followers up, or whatever you want to plug.
Yeah, guys, follow me on Twitter at Lance Caparosi and follow me on Threads at Lance Caparosi. We'll just shout that one out there as well. You can follow Anthony at Pistons Talk across all social media platforms. After you do that, go ahead and give the Pistons Talk podcast a follow or subscribe to us on Google, Apple. Wow, I messed that up. Do us a favor, go to Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. After you subscribe, leave a review, drop a rating, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.
See you guys next week. Peace.